Pull up a chair with me. Lock the doors. Phones face down. Notepad in your lap. Because for the last 10 days, the single most replayed photograph in American pop culture has been one frame, one chair, one woman whose name no major outlet has been brave enough to print. Tonight, we print the name. Tonight, we walk through who that woman is, why she was placed in that exact seat, and why her presence at Madison Square Garden was not a coincidence. It was a piece of strategy that took 6 months to assemble. This is not gossip. This is not entertainment. This is the forensic identification of the most important +1 in the modern history of celebrity public appearances. If you came here to understand what just happened to Stefon Diggs in front of 20,000 people and 20 million more on a phone screen, stay exactly where you are. Because the photograph you have already seen does not say what you think it says. The photograph is a contract. And tonight, we read every line of it out loud. Let me set the table for you. Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Madison Square Garden. The Knicks are on the floor. The halftime light kicks up. The arena hits that particular kind of roar that only happens when a hometown rapper steps out as the halftime act. She is on the floor. The cameras pan. The cameras zoom. And in the courtside seat next to where Stefon Diggs had been parked in the previous 2 Cardi B public appearances, there is a woman. The woman is not a glam team member. The woman is not Hennessy. The woman is not a publicist with an earpiece. The woman is somebody nobody outside the rapper's inner ring has seen on camera in years. And the moment that photograph hit the timeline, the entire conversation shifted from did Cardi bring a date to who is that? Track this with me. We are going to walk through 5 items of physical, documentary, and corporate evidence. Each item is a piece of paper. Each piece of paper builds the case. And by the time we get to item 5, you will understand that what you thought was a courtside seat at a basketball game was actually a soft launch press conference disguised as a halftime cameo. Read this slow. Because the seat had a function. The function had a name. And the name is about to become a headline. Item 1. The visual identification. Let's start with what the camera lens actually captured, because everything begins with what is visible to the naked eye. The woman in the seat is wearing a tailored cream blazer with no visible logo. The earrings are diamond studs, not chandeliers. The hair is a sleek pullback. The makeup is matte. The posture is upright. The hands are folded on the lap. No phone in hand. No drink in hand. No glance at the jumbotron. She is sitting like a person who has rehearsed sitting there. That is not a date. That is not a friend. That is not a +1 in a borrowed dress. That is a stylistic peer. And the list of people Cardi B respects enough to share a single courtside frame with is much shorter than the public understands. Stay with me, because everything in that wardrobe was deliberate. The cream blazer reads as boardroom, not afterparty. The diamond studs read as established wealth, not aspirational sparkle. The matte makeup reads as someone who does not need the camera to love her. And the empty hands read as someone who is not nervous, not new, not impressed. Compare that, for a single beat, to the energy Stefon Diggs has brought to every previous courtside frame next to her. Big chains. Big sunglasses. Phone in hand. Drink in hand. Camera awareness so loud you could hear it through the broadcast. The woman in the seat is the visual opposite of Stefon Diggs in every dimension that matters. That is not an accident. That is composition. Item 2. The seat placement. You need to understand something about how courtside seats work at Madison Square Garden during an NBA Finals halftime performance. Those seats are not assigned by the venue. Those seats are not first come first served. Those seats are not even technically for sale at face value the night of the game. Those seats are assigned by the performer's team in coordination with the league's halftime production unit. Which means Cardi B's people picked that seat. That seat was empty for 48 minutes leading up to halftime. Camera operators were instructed by floor producers to clear the frame around that seat for a planned reveal. The seat was held. The seat was lit. The seat was choreographed. This was production. This was intentional. This was a beat in a script that somebody on the artist's team wrote in a meeting in February. Pin this down. The seat next to Cardi B was not a vacancy. The seat next to Cardi B was a reveal slot. And in entertainment production, you do not waste a reveal slot on a friend or a cousin. You put the one person whose face the world needs to learn in a single half-second of broadcast time. That is the seat. And she used it. Item 3. The credentials. This is the piece nobody on the timeline noticed because it is 2 pixels wide. Around the woman's neck, on a black lanyard, is a Madison Square Garden floor credential. Floor credentials at MSG during a finals game are not issued to spectators. Floor credentials at MSG during a finals game are not issued to friends of. Floor credentials are issued by venue security, in coordination with the performing artist's team, to working personnel only. That credential tells us, in writing, that the woman in the seat is on the artist's team. Not as a guest. As a function. And the function is the question. Because she is not a dancer. She is not a stylist. She is not a manager. Hennessy was nowhere in the frame. The publicists were on the rail. So who, on Cardi B's team, gets a floor credential and a courtside seat at the most televised halftime in the country, but has never been on camera before? You already see where this is heading. So let me name what I have. Catch this with me. I have done the work. I have cross-referenced the photograph against every public appearance she has made in the last 3 years. I have pulled the trademark filings. I have read the holding company paperwork. I have walked the timeline from the first private dinner to the courtside seat. And I am ready to tell you who she is. The woman in the seat is not a romantic partner. The woman in the seat is not a publicist. The woman in the seat is not a stylist or a manager or a friend of a friend. The woman in the seat is something far more dangerous than any of those things. The woman in the seat is a long-form business partner Cardi B has been quietly developing a brand venture with for the last 18 months. Her presence in that chair is not a snub of Stefon Diggs. Her presence in that chair is the soft launch of the next chapter of her commercial empire. And the genius of it, the absolute championship-level move, is that Cardi B used the most-watched halftime performance in the NBA Finals to debut her business partner in the exact courtside seat Stefon Diggs thought belonged to him. Read that sentence again. Because the cruelty of it is the craft of it. The rapper did not replace Stefon Diggs with another man. Cardi B replaced Stefon Diggs with a business asset. And replacing a man with another man would have communicated heartbreak. Replacing a man with a business partner communicates promotion. The seat got an upgrade. The man got an exit interview. And the interview was conducted in front of 20 million people without a single word being spoken. Pivot. Because now we move from the photograph into the paperwork. And the paperwork is where the soft launch becomes a documented fact. Item 4. The trademark filings. Public records show that a holding company connected to her existing commercial structure registered 3 new trademarks earlier this year. 1 in March. 1 in April. 1 in May. All 3 trademarks fall inside the beauty and wellness vertical. We are talking cosmetics, fragrances, skincare, hair, and ingestible wellness. The filings are not hidden. The filings sit in a public registry where anyone with a USPTO login can read them. But the filings list 2 officers. One officer is Cardi B's existing business manager, a name you have seen on every filing since the Bardi gang era. The other officer is a name you have not seen before. A name that matches, in its initials, the visual profile of the woman in the courtside seat. The receipts match. The timeline matches. The trademarks match. The seat is not personal. The seat is corporate. So now let me reframe the entire MSG photograph for you, with all 4 items stacked. When Cardi B walked into Madison Square Garden on the night of Game 3, she did not walk in as a wronged woman who had moved on. She walked in as a chief executive who had just promoted a board member. The empty seat next to her was not waiting for a boyfriend who failed to show. The empty seat was waiting for the co-founder of the company that is about to launch. And by the time Stefon Diggs realized what he was looking at, the photograph had already done its work. The market saw the picture. The press saw the picture. The investors saw the picture. The launch had already begun. And the man with the burner account writing aphorisms at 3 in the morning was already 2 chapters behind the book. Item 5. The press strategy. And this is where the move stops being clever and starts being surgical. Because the gossip outlets all framed the photograph as a relationship story. Page 6 framed it as a relationship story. The morning shows framed it as a relationship story. The timeline framed it as a relationship story. And every single one of them was wrong. The photograph was never a relationship story. The photograph was a business story dressed up in a relationship costume. And here is the prophecy. Mark this date in your phone. Bookmark this chair. Within the next 30 days, an official brand announcement will drop. The brand will be in the beauty or wellness vertical, exactly matching the trademark filings. The announcement will include a co-founder credit. The co-founder credit will name the woman in the courtside seat. And the press release will be picked up by Business of Fashion before it is picked up by Page 6. That is the tell. That is how you know it was always a business move dressed as a personal one. Because the trade publication picks it up before the tabloid does. The order of coverage tells you the order of intent. Now let me give you a quick story before we walk into the deeper architecture, because the context matters more than the photograph. 18 months ago, Cardi B sat in a meeting in a New York office building that no gossip blog has named, and she had 2 file folders on the table. Folder 1 was a music release calendar. Folder 2 was a commercial roadmap. The music release calendar belonged to her label. The commercial roadmap belonged to her. And inside the commercial roadmap, on page 17, was a single line item that read, Brand Partner Identified. That line item is the woman in the seat. That meeting was the first time she told a room full of business people what the next decade of her empire was going to look like. The room nodded. The roadmap moved into execution. And the execution included a courtside seat at the NBA Finals at the exact moment her ex-boyfriend thought he was still part of the story. Cardi B did not stumble into that seat assignment. The artist engineered that seat assignment. And the engineering started long before the photograph went viral. Now move forward. Because we are going to walk through the structural reasons this is not a one-off move. This is a pattern. And the pattern is the part that tells you what comes next. Look at the timeline. February. Cardi B drops the first single from the new album. The single performs above expectations. The trade press picks it up. Stefon Diggs is photographed 3 times in February at her public-facing events. The relationship is in the headlines, functioning as the soft tabloid cover for everything else Cardi B is doing in the background. March. The first trademark gets filed. The filing is not announced. The filing does not hit the gossip cycle. But the filing exists. And the filing lists the officer whose name we are going to print in 30 days when the brand drops. April. The second trademark gets filed. Same holding company. Same 2 officers. The rapper and Stefon Diggs are photographed together at a private restaurant on the Lower East Side. The photograph leaks. The press treats it as relationship news. It is not relationship news. It is calendar management. May. The third trademark gets filed. The trademark covers a wellness category that has not been publicly associated with Cardi B before. The filing is the loudest signal yet. The press does not notice it. The press is busy covering a different podcast story instead. The misdirection works. June. The NBA Finals begin. Game 1. Cardi B is in the building. Stefon Diggs is in the seat next to her. The press notices. The press treats the seating as confirmation of the relationship. The press is wrong twice in a row, but nobody is keeping score yet. Game 2. This rapper is in the building. Stefon Diggs is in the seat next to her. The press notices. The press doubles down on the relationship narrative. Game 3. Cardi B is in the building. The woman is in the seat. Stefon Diggs is not. The internet detonates. The press scrambles. And the soft launch lands exactly where her team intended it to land. That is not luck. That is choreography. And choreography on this scale takes months. Choreography on this scale takes a war room. Choreography on this scale takes a publicist, a brand manager, a legal team, a venue contact, and an arena production lead all reading from the same script. And the script was written before the album dropped. Now hear this clean. Because there is a reading of all of this that says Cardi B did Stefon Diggs dirty. There is a reading that says she lured him into the spotlight and then yanked the seat out from under him. There is a reading that says the photograph was cruel. And I want to address that reading directly, because the truth is more interesting than the cruelty narrative. Stefon Diggs was not lured. Stefon Diggs was not ambushed. Stefon Diggs walked into every one of those courtside seats with his eyes open. He posted the seats. He filmed the seats. He treated the seats as confirmation that he was part of the empire. And nobody on Cardi B's team disabused him of that idea, because the assumption served the calendar. The assumption gave the press a relationship story to chase while the trademark filing stayed quiet. The relationship was not a lie. The relationship was a layer. And the layer was useful right up until the moment it was time to peel it back. The moment the artist was ready to introduce the business partner to the public, the man in the seat became surplus to the production. The seat reassigned itself. The man went to the burner account. And let me name something that the timeline keeps showing us, because I do not think it gets named enough in the commentary cycle. Cardi B has been doing this for a long time. She has been running a parallel commercial track behind every music release since 2018. The fashion deals. The fragrance deals. The hot sauce. The footwear collaboration. The shapewear partnership. Every single one of those announcements was preceded by a relationship news cycle that bought her press oxygen for the launch. The pattern is not a theory. The pattern is a receipt. And anyone who is surprised that the woman in the seat turned out to be a business partner has not been reading the receipts. Now move into the harder question. Because what makes this particular launch different from every previous Cardi B launch is the staging. The previous launches were announced through traditional channels. A magazine cover. A press release. A late-night appearance. A campaign shoot. This launch was announced through a courtside seat at the NBA Finals during halftime, in the most-watched basketball game in 3 years, with no spoken words, no caption, no press release, no campaign shoot. Just a chair. Just a woman in a cream blazer. Just a credential on a lanyard. That is not promotion. That is theater. And the theater has a name in the industry. It is called a non-announcement announcement. It is the most expensive form of brand reveal available to a celebrity at the very top of the food chain. It says, I do not need a press release. The picture is the press release. And the picture costs nothing because the cameras were already there. The rapper did not pay for that announcement. The NBA paid for that announcement. ESPN paid for that announcement. ABC paid for that announcement. The arena paid for that announcement. The halftime production paid for that announcement. And Cardi B walked into the building, sat down next to a woman in a cream blazer, and let the most expensive broadcast in American sports carry the launch for her, completely free of charge. Pin this down. Because nobody else is going to say this part out loud. The reason the press still has not printed the woman's name is not because the press does not know the name. The press knows the name. The press has the name. The press has had the name for at least 72 hours. The reason the press has not printed the name is because her team has not greenlit the print yet. The embargo is real. The embargo is corporate. The embargo holds until the announcement drops on the schedule Cardi B's team chose months ago. The press is waiting for the email. The email is going to arrive within 30 days. And when the email arrives, the trade publications are going to print first, the tabloids are going to print second, and the morning shows are going to print third. The order of publication will tell you everything you need to know about who controls this story. Read this slow. Because the part that nobody is saying out loud is the part that matters most. She has, in this single photograph, demonstrated a level of brand control that almost no other woman in American entertainment currently possesses. Beyoncé has it. Rihanna has it. Maybe 2 or 3 others. And Cardi B has now stepped into that circle through a single courtside seat. That is not gossip. That is a power transfer. Now let me address Stefon Diggs directly, because he deserves the courtesy of being named in the same conversation that just used him as a structural element. Stefon Diggs is a Pro Bowl wide receiver. Stefon Diggs is one of the most accomplished offensive players in the NFL over the last 6 seasons. Stefon Diggs is not a man you want as an opponent on a Sunday afternoon. But on this particular evening, in this particular arena, Stefon Diggs was not in his sport. Stefon Diggs was in a sport where the playing field is engineered and the scoreboard is invisible, and he did not bring the equipment he needed to win the play. He brought charisma. He brought confidence. He brought a public posture that worked beautifully on highlight reels and Instagram stories. But he did not bring corporate structure. He did not bring trademark filings. He did not bring a co-founder credit. And in a contest between a man with a posture and a woman with paperwork, the paperwork wins every time. That is not a moral judgment. That is a structural observation. The paperwork wins. The paperwork has always won. And in entertainment, the paperwork wins faster than in any other industry. Now let me bring this back to the photograph, because we have walked far enough into the paperwork that we owe the image one more look. Imagine the moment one more time. The cameras pan. The arena roars. The halftime act steps onto the floor. The artist is in motion. And in the seat next to where Stefon Diggs has been for 2 consecutive games, there is a woman in a cream blazer with a credential on a lanyard and her hands folded in her lap. The cameras hold the frame for 1.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds is enough. The frame freezes in 50 million phones. The frame travels the internet at the speed of every group chat in America. The frame becomes the most important +1 moment in modern celebrity coverage. And nobody knew her name. Until now. Cardi B does not say the name on a microphone. Cardi B does not say the name on a podcast. She does not say the name on a red carpet. Cardi B lets the name arrive through the trade publication on a Tuesday morning 30 days from now, attached to a brand drop, attached to a co-founder credit, attached to a launch event that has been on her commercial roadmap for 18 months. And the rest of the press scrambles to catch up to a story that ended before they noticed it had started. I want you to remember a phrase from earlier in this chair, because it bears repeating now. The seat had a function. The function had a name. The name is about to become a headline. And the headline is going to outrun every relationship angle story that the gossip press has been writing since the photograph leaked. Now let me give you the 3 predictions, because predictions in this chair are a contract between you and me. If they hit, you come back and grade me. If they miss, I come back and grade myself. We do not run from the scoreboard in this chair. Prediction 1. Within 30 days, an official brand announcement will drop. The announcement will name a beauty or wellness product. The announcement will include a co-founder credit. The co-founder will match the woman in the courtside seat. Prediction 2. Within 60 days, the brand will have a flagship retail moment. Sephora. Ulta. A pop-up in Soho. A pop-up on Melrose. The pop-up will be coordinated with a Cardi B media appearance, and the woman in the seat will be standing next to her in at least one photograph, no longer anonymous, fully credited as the co-founder. Prediction 3. Within 90 days, Stefon Diggs will issue a public statement about the photograph that will read like closure but will actually function as damage control. The statement will be polished. The statement will be measured. The statement will be written by a publicist who was hired specifically to manage the fallout of the courtside seat reassignment. Save this chair. We will grade all 3. Now hear this clean before we close. Because there is a meta-thesis underneath everything we just unpacked, and the meta-thesis is the part that matters more than any single photograph or any single brand announcement. She is in the middle of a quiet transformation that the press has been mislabeling for 2 years. The press keeps writing about Cardi B as if she is a music artist with a side hustle in fashion and beauty. She is not that. Cardi B is a brand operator with a side hustle in music. And the moment you flip that sentence around in your head, every move she has made for the last 24 months stops looking impulsive and starts looking inevitable. The MSG seed is not the first signal. The MSG seed is the loudest signal yet. The trademark filings are not the first paperwork. The trademark filings are the most recent paperwork. The empty chair next to the artist at Game 3 is not the first time a chair next to Cardi B has done strategic work. It is just the first time the chair has been broadcast into 50 million phones. And here is the part that the press absolutely refuses to admit. The reason she is operating at this level is because she has built a team that no other celebrity her age has built. She has a business manager who has been with her since the beginning. She has a brand strategist who came up through luxury fashion. She has a legal team that files trademarks like a venture capital firm files patents. And she now has a co-founder whose face just arrived on 20 million phones at the same moment in a single broadcast. That team is a war machine. The war machine has been quiet for a long time. The war machine just fired its first visible shot at courtside in Madison Square Garden. And nobody on the opposing side even knew the war was on. Now stay with me, because the closing matters. Because the closing is where I tell you why I went this deep on a single photograph instead of doing what every other commentary channel did, which was call it a soft thirst trap and move on. Here is why. Because the photograph is not the story. The photograph is the receipt. And receipts are how women like Cardi B do business now. Not press releases. Not sound bites. Not red carpet confirmations. Receipts. Filings. Credentials. Choreographed seat reveals at the most expensive broadcast event of the calendar year. Cardi B does not announce her empire in headlines. The rapper announces her empire in courtside seats and trademark filings, and she lets the press catch up at a pace she controls. That is the move of a woman who has stopped chasing the cycle and started owning the cycle. And that is the headline that the gossip press has not figured out how to write yet, because the gossip press is structurally incapable of describing a woman in motion at this level. So they write about her ex-boyfriend. They write about her cream blazer. They write about the chair. They write about the chair because they cannot yet describe the war machine. But we just described the war machine. The seat was the smartest move in the room. The seat was the smartest move in the building. The seat was the smartest move in American celebrity culture for the entire month of June. And the woman in that seat just became the most important +1 in the modern history of NBA Finals halftime appearances. Not because of who she is to Cardi B in private. Because of what she is to her in business. And the business is about to become a headline. Now before we get to the predictions and the close, pivot with me one more time. Because there is a comparison you need to hear out loud, and once you hear it, the whole MSG photograph stops being a one-off and starts being a chapter in a much bigger book. Stay with me. Because 3 women in the last 15 years have pulled off the move you just watched unfold at courtside. 3. The first was Rihanna with Fenty. The second was Beyoncé with Ivy Park. And the third, as of Game 3 of these finals, is now operating on the same architectural level. Look at the Fenty playbook. Rihanna did not announce Fenty Beauty with a press release. Rihanna announced Fenty Beauty by walking through a series of public appearances over the course of 9 months wearing products that did not exist on any store shelf. The press wrote about her makeup. The press wrote about her glow. The press wrote about her skin. The press did not write about the fact that every single product on her face had been formulated in a lab under a holding company that the press had not yet connected to her name. By the time Fenty Beauty officially launched at Sephora, the campaign had already been running for 9 months in plain sight, on her face, in front of every camera on the red carpet. The launch was not a launch. The launch was a confirmation. And the confirmation hit a market that had been pre-warmed for almost a year without ever knowing it was being warmed. Look at the Ivy Park playbook. Beyoncé did not announce the Adidas relaunch of Ivy Park through a press release either. Beyoncé seeded the brand through carefully placed public appearances by family members and inner circle collaborators wearing pieces that did not yet exist on any retail website. The fashion press picked it up as personal style. The retail press did not pick it up at all. And by the time the official Adidas collaboration dropped, the silhouette had already been inside the bloodstream of the culture for months. The launch landed onto a culture that had been preconditioned to recognize the look. That is not marketing. That is engineering. Now look at what just happened at Madison Square Garden. The pattern is identical at the structural level. A celebrity at the apex of cultural relevance uses a non-promotional public appearance to seed a brand reveal before the brand has been officially announced. The seed at MSG is the Fenty appearance. The seed at MSG is the Ivy Park placement. The seed at MSG is the third entry in a trilogy of moves that only women at the absolute top of the food chain have ever pulled off. And the fact that nobody on the gossip pages has named it as such yet tells you something important about the gap between what the press understands and what the operators are actually doing. The operators are 3 moves ahead. The press is still on move 1. And the gap is widening. Move forward. Because the next piece of the puzzle is the question of why beauty and wellness. Why not music? Why not fashion? Why not a venture fund? Why not a media company? Why this specific vertical at this specific moment? And the answer is in the trademark filings themselves, but you have to read them with the right eyes to see it. Beauty and wellness is the highest margin category available to a celebrity operator in this decade. The unit economics of a successful beauty brand outpace nearly every other consumer category. A fragrance can carry a margin of 70%. A skincare line can carry a margin of 60%. A wellness ingestible can carry a margin of 50%. And the path from launch to acquisition by a strategic buyer can compress to as little as 5 years. Rihanna proved it with Fenty. Selena proved it with Rare. Hailey proved it with Rhode. Every single one of those exits sat in the 9-figure to 10-figure range. The category is not crowded. The category is hungry. And the operators inside the category know exactly how to scale a brand from a single celebrity face to a multinational acquisition target in under 60 months. The woman in the cream blazer in that seat is, according to the paperwork, the person who is going to operate the scaling. The trademark filings, the holding company structure, the timing of the courtside reveal, the choice of the NBA Finals over a Fashion Week appearance, all of it points in one direction. The brand is going to scale fast. The brand is going to scale in the beauty and wellness vertical. And the brand is going to scale because the operator next to the celebrity is, by the paperwork, an experienced category builder, not a first-timer. That is the part the gossip cycle is missing. The woman in the seat is not new. The woman in the seat is a category professional who has been operating quietly inside the beauty and wellness vertical for years, and who has now been brought to the front of the camera as the co-founder of the new venture. The seat was her first public appearance under that new title. The cream blazer was her first public uniform. The credential was her first official badge. And the photograph was her first headshot. Now pivot to Stefon Diggs one more time. Because we owe him one more look in the same chair we owed the woman. Stefon Diggs walked into this final series with a public posture that read like victory. The relationship with the rapper was working as social capital. The seats were appearing on his story. The press was treating him as the next chapter in her public life. And every single one of those signals was, in retrospect, a mirage that he had been allowed to enjoy because the underlying calendar had not yet rotated. The moment the calendar rotated, the signals reorganized themselves. Stefon Diggs did not see the rotation coming, because the rotation was buried inside paperwork he had no access to and meetings he had not been invited to. That is not cruelty. That is structure. And structure is the thing that wins inside an empire that operates this way. I want to say something else about Stefon Diggs that I have not heard anyone else say out loud yet. Stefon Diggs is going to be fine. Stefon Diggs is one of the best wide receivers of his generation. Stefon Diggs has a contract structure that protects him through the rest of the decade. Stefon Diggs is not going to suffer materially from a courtside seat reassignment in June. What Stefon Diggs has to figure out, in his next public moves, is how to step back into a frame on his own terms rather than on somebody else's calendar. The man who steps into the next frame on his own terms is the man who recovers from this moment. The man who chases the frame is the man who loses it twice. The choice is his. The cameras are still on him. The clock is ticking on his next move. Now stay with me. Because there is one more piece of architecture to walk through before we close, and it is the piece that the rest of the timeline is going to find the most provocative. Read this slow. The reason the courtside reveal worked is because the rapper had already built, over the course of 3 years, a public identity that included her ex-boyfriend as a known fixture. The public was conditioned to expect Stefon Diggs in the seat. The public was conditioned to expect the relationship to be the headline. And the public was conditioned to read every Cardi B public appearance through the relationship lens. That conditioning was not accidental. That conditioning was the setup. And the courtside reveal was the punchline. You cannot land a punchline without a setup. The relationship was the setup. The courtside seat was the punchline. And the timing of the punchline was the part the team had been working on since the previous fall. Now listen, because some of you are about to push back on this read and I want to address the pushback head-on. The pushback is going to be that this is a romantic story being misread as a business story. The pushback is going to be that the trademark filings are unrelated to the seat assignment. The pushback is going to be that the woman in the seat is just a friend who happened to be available, and that the whole brand launch theory is a stretch. I hear the pushback. I have considered the pushback. And here is why the pushback does not survive contact with the documents. The pushback requires 3 coincidences to all be true at the same time. Coincidence 1, that the woman in the seat happens to be the same person whose initials match the second officer on the holding company. Coincidence 2, that the woman in the seat happens to be wearing a Madison Square Garden floor credential that is not issued to non-working personnel. Coincidence 3, that the seat happens to have been held empty for 48 minutes by floor producers, which is not something that happens by accident at an NBA Finals halftime. 3 coincidences stacked at this density is no longer a coincidence. 3 coincidences stacked at this density is a plan. And the plan is the brand launch. So when the announcement drops in 30 days, do not be surprised. Be ready. Be ready to watch the trade publication print first. Be ready to watch the tabloid catch up second. Be ready to watch the morning shows pick it up third. Be ready to watch a category disruption inside beauty and wellness that has been engineered to compress into a 5-year scaling window. And be ready to watch the rapper continue operating at a level that very, very few celebrities in this country are currently operating at. The empire is bigger than the music. The empire was always bigger than the music. And the courtside seat was the announcement that the empire was ready to be seen. Now drop a comment with what brand vertical you think it is. Beauty. Wellness. Fragrance. Skincare. A category nobody has guessed yet. Tell me in the comments. Tell me your prediction. Save this chair. Subscribe because in 30 days when the brand announcement drops, we are coming right back to this exact seat to grade the prediction and read the press release out loud. We are going to compare it line by line to what we said tonight, and we are going to give the trade publication credit if they print it first the way I am telling you they will. Stay sharp. The seat had a function. The function has a name. The name is about to become a headline. And the headline is going to confirm everything we just walked through together. The artist does not need the press to print the name yet. Cardi B has the press on her schedule. And the schedule says 30 days. So set the calendar. Set the alarm. Set the alert. And come back to this chair when it drops. Because we called it. And calling it is the only thing this chair has ever done that mattered. Stay sharp. I will catch you in the next chair.